Joining me now is former FBI Assistant Director, Agent, and Attorney Chris Swecker. Chris, thanks very much for being here. Your reaction?
Morning. Yeah, I think maybe the increased scrutiny of the Secret Service and the embarrassment from the last assassination attempt may have saved his life, because they were proactive this time. They didn't hesitate, and they took the shot. So, you know, that's the positive thing here. I want to know how that person knew to be there at that golf hole at that time that day. He's either surveilling Donald Trump, or he received some inside information. That's pretty sinister if that's the case, because that implicates a third party, either wittingly or unwittingly. Wow.
And okay, what kind of questions do you want to ask to get to those answers? I mean, we're all asking how it's possible that he can get so close to Trump. But even worse was the Butler closeness, right? We're talking about 100-plus yards, right. Now 500 yards. So how is it possible that the perimeter of the golf course yesterday was not secure?
Yeah, I mean, we have a live suspect now, so we may be in a position to get some answers if he's talking. He may have lawyered up already. But, you know, as you know, I think the Secret Service agent that took the shot did a good job. But I'm wondering why they were not walking that fence line in that perimeter. I mean, to just stay on the golf course doesn't seem to be. In this case, they were effective in neutralizing the threat. But you know, when you have that type of hedgerow lining a fence like that, so close to public property and highways and streets, you would think they would have someone actually walking that fence line. So, yeah. You know, there's going to be more answers in this case, and I think they're going to come a little bit quicker, although there is a prosecution to protect now.
Yeah. Chris, how impactful is all this negative rhetoric constantly coming out of the Democrat Party? Miranda Devine from the New York Post this morning writes, reckless rhetoric from Democrats and the media are to blame for the second Trump assassination attempt. Yesterday, an hour after this second assassination attempt, Democrat House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says, quote, we must stop MAGA Republicans. OK, we must stop them. He makes this declaration an hour after the former president survived this second assassination attempt. And then there's the Federalist. The Federalist writes, after the first assassination attempt, President Biden said to lower the temperature. That's exactly what they did not do. In fact, after that, we had a ton of smears against Trump, calling him the next Hitler, a threat to democracy, primary spreader of fascism, and an existential danger to the nation from Democrats, Chris.
Yeah, they always say they're going to be less decisive and less inflammatory, and then they go right out and make statements like that. This guy, this wingnut, is a prime example of what this rhetoric brings about. There are too many unstable people out there who will latch on to this and do what we've seen in the last two assassination attempts. This guy was posting things that was almost quoting Democratic talking points in this heated rhetoric that's been spewing out the last couple of years. So it's no surprise that there are people like this out there who will take action. And this guy, you know, I think he planned on taking a pretty close-up shot the way he was set up. Well, I mean, you know, if Trump had walked past him, he would have taken him out completely.
I mean, this is all luck, right? Luck that it just grazed his ear the last time. Luck that he didn't walk a certain way. We're talking about leading Democrats with this rhetoric, but it's not just Democrat officials. It's the media. The New York Times came out with a headline using a Nazi slogan when referring to J.D. Vance's immigration stance, writing this: J.D. Vance's blood and soil nationalism finds its target. The Trump-Vance campaign denounced the opinion piece, warning that it could cause real-world violence just before yesterday's attack. The New York Times has since updated the headline to simply say, shouldn't J.D. Vance represent all of Ohio, Chris? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, it's criminal. This rhetoric has got to stop. I mean, this is the second assassination attempt. We got the Iranians after Donald Trump. I mean, it's just too much. It's time to stop. And, you know, they'll have blood on their hands before it's all over with. And then they'll be, you know, well, I'll stop there.
Yeah. What do you want to hear from Secret Service to get to the bottom of this? And why should we expect that this is going to stop? You've had two assassination attempts on Trump's life. What should we do? Expect more?
Yeah, what gets me is I know enough about the Secret Service to know that they have about half of their resources programmed to small frauds, financial crimes, and that sort of thing. They're going to use this, or they're trying to use this to get more resources. What I would tell the Secret Service is reprogram your resources back to protection. And then if you have time, you can do these other things that are more fun than doing protection. But right now, nobody wants to do protection because it's more fun to do economic crimes and conduct investigations. The FBI can handle those sort of things. The Secret Service has a primary mission. Take care of that mission. Don't circle the wagons and cover yourselves when something happens. In this case, I think this may have saved Trump's life. The increased scrutiny on the Secret Service and the embarrassment may have gotten them to up their game to the point where they actually prevented this assassination attempt.
And don't forget, this is why Trump said it at the debate last week. Watch this.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy.
Chris.
Yeah, you know, people say the other side or the Dems say this is hyperbole. It's not hyperbole. I mean, this is real life. He's going to have to go around in a bubble now because of this type of rhetoric if it keeps up.
And also real life is the violent crime that we're all watching. Violent crime has surged under the Biden-Harris administration, according to a new report from the Department of Justice. Total violent crime actually surged from 2020 and 2021. The data from 2023 shows there were more than 22 violent crimes per 1,000 people in the country. That's up from just 16 crimes per 1,000 people in 2020. And yet, at the debate, ABC host and moderator David Muir incorrectly fact-checking former President Trump when he pointed this out during the debate. Trump slammed Muir after the recent report. Watch this.
The premier statistical agency at the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Justice Statistics, released brand new data showing that since Kamala Harris took office, violent crime nationwide is up 40%, rape is up 42%, car theft is up 42%, robberies are up 67%, aggravated assaults are up much more than 55%, and violent crime with a weapon is up 56%. Violent attacks on strangers. So David Muir owes me an apology. Do you agree?
I mean, what's the story here? Why is the media deciding to go political rather than reporting truth to the American people? Is David Muir just uninformed? We have another report from the New York Post. Murders on subways are up 60%. So what is he talking about, fact-checking Trump about this?
Yeah, he either doesn't know what he's talking about or he's in the tank, which most of the media is, for the Democratic candidates. Here's the dirty secret. One-third of American cities are not reporting their crimes to the FBI. The FBI switched over to a new system in 2021, and they either chose to not report the stats or they just don't have the technology to do so. So the blue cities like Philadelphia, New York, and Chicago are not reporting their crimes to the FBI. There is a good statistic out of the Department of Justice, which Donald Trump quoted, and that's a crime victimization survey, which is more accurate, and that's what's capturing these rises in violent crimes across all these blue cities.
Well, there you go. If you're not reporting the actual crimes, then I guess David Muir could say crime is down. Okay, Chris. Thanks very much for being here, sir. We so appreciate your insights.
Thank you.